and he does a lot of work with us also.
Correct.
Really.
Correct. Okay, Shrikant, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, friends, and welcome to our fourth session. This session is, a conversation with a CEO in our series of e-roundtable series, which we have started on a Friday evening. We have with us Shrikant Joshi, and I will introduce him to you in a minute. But before that, a little bit more about our e-roundtable series. IIMAGES has been doing these monthly get-togethers and have been connecting alumni across IIMs for the last many years. Given the lockdown, we decided to start a series of webinars, focused on providing some new insights and some learnings, a little different from what you would hear normally in fancy sessions. And thank you all for joining. We welcome you all. And with that, let me first introduce to you Shrikant. So Shrikant is my batchmate from IIM Ahmedabad. And before that, he is an alumnus of IIT Delhi. Shrikant's first job was with Wipro, and he has been a CEO for the last many years. His CEO stint started with Sifi, an internet company, internet service provider rather. And then he moved to MR in Gurgaon, and now he's with L&T Realty. So Shrikant, welcome. This is gonna be a very informal conversation. The objective is to learn more about the journey of being a CEO and how it is to be a CEO. So we'll try and cover two kinds of questions. One is, how you got there, and two is, how is it to be there? Right? We hope that some of our participants will learn from what you're going to share with us, because a lot of this is probably not taught in any business. So with that, let me ask you my first question, which is, how was your journey to the top, right? And what memories come to you?
So Salil, thank you for inviting me for this. And from the time we started discussing, it has given me a nice time to reflect at the journey, 38 years, as to how it has been. I must say, looking back, it's been pretty satisfactory, gratifying, and I'm grateful to many people by which I got this opportunity. By and large, other than 2-3 years, it's been a fantastic journey, very satisfying and very gratifying, is all I can say at this point.
Great. So, what enabled this journey? So, that's like a summary, a very nice summary.
And so, and I thought on that too. And if I have to address it to the youngsters who may want somewhat journey to reach there, I will tell you what are the key things which happened. And they happened, those incidents are a little more crystal clear looking back. And I didn't want it for that reason, but I'll tell you what happened and how that reason happened. So for all the youngsters in the environment, when you are starting in your job, I was lucky to be in Wipro. It was a very small company. Our profit was 8 crores. Our revenue was less than 100 crores. And Mr. Premji was fully hands-on. So one of the things which really happened and which worked and will work for everybody is that keep your ears open. The top man is bothered about something not happening in the company for years. And when you know that, if you put all your effort and make that happen, you instantly stand out and people tend to remember you. We were only in the field of Vanaspati. Our distribution was very poor and we had great ambition to be in toilet soaps, be it levers and all of that. And then the distribution had to go up 4 or 5 times. And I was a management trainee sitting outside in the open office. And I used to hear him say, I went to this market and the market was prepared for me. And when I went to some other place, I saw the distribution was not proper, X, Y, Z, and things like that. Very soon, in 5, 6 months, I realized that in marketing job, there was no glory. All the glory happened with the sales guys. So I went to my boss and said, put me in sales. So in November, I was put to Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad. In February, we launched this toilet soap. And as in retrospect, luck would have it, I had a lousy supervisor. I had to ground him. And since the soap was so important, I sat on the auto and went to every store and we launched it. And then, as you say, you have asked me one question on luck. And luck, I say, is when preparation meets opportunity. What happened on the 15th day after the launch? One evening, 4 o'clock, I get a call from my president. I'm coming tomorrow morning. And as my colleague and I were standing at the airport, he says, what happens if Premji walks in? So I said, chalo yaar, ek hi mein dono nipad jayenge. And the first guy to walk out of the flight is Mr. Premji.
Wow.
Having heard him in the office on what all his anguish were, here is what I did. As soon as we sat in the car, I gave him a list of 800 outlets. I said, Mr. Premji, these are 800 outlets. You choose where you want to go in the whole day. So that I don't want to be accused that I took you to a market where it was nice. Now, I must tell you, even today, not many people do it,
Correct.
Salil. And the people who are listeners, nobody has the guts to do it, and people don't do it. And that took him aback and say, okay, now what can he do? We picked some at the random, okay, here, there. Then I said, I will choose the route so that I can choose which outlets are open when and closed when. If there's some people from Hyderabad, they'll remember we first went at 8:30 to a sabji market called Miralam Mandi, because that's the only one open at 8:30. Rest opens at 9:10. And the whole day he kept on finding a store where there would not be our soap. And Hyderabad has lots of bakeries, and he'll say, does this bakery have our soap? And I would say, no, he doesn't keep any soap. And he would go in to check and there would be no soap. Or I said, he keeps soap, but he has 2 pieces of ours. And it became such a mad, I mean, he was enjoying it that he worked in the market till 10 in the night to find one store where it not be.
Right.
And at 9:30, he found a store. I was with my president, Mr. Pai, and he went to little ahead 10 meters and he came jumping like a little boy. Shrikant, this store doesn't have, this store doesn't have. And I told him, Mr. Premji, that store was not there 15 days back. And we went to that store and he asked him, when is the store open? I'd opened 12 days back. Because I had done that beat and I walked 1 kilometer ahead. So this is what actually set in his mind that what he was struggling in the company for 15 years can be done. And it struck my name in his mind. And then he used me for next 10 years for any big problem solving, which he had. And I got transferred. My younger son in class 12th was in 12th school. So you can imagine the amount of transfers I had, and he would come and say, Shrikant, I want you there. You just go there. I want you there. So this is the kind of thing which really helped get the career. You mentioned about SIFI, and I'll tell you about SIFI as well.
Hang on, Shrikant. Just wanted to summarize a few things here, right? So, I think what I heard was that, one of the things that I heard was the passion for your job, right? And I think that's a very important thing. The passion invariably comes from inside, the passion with which you actually, understood your market, right? And the passion with which you sort of showed that market to Mr. Premji. I think that's my learning from this. And of course, the passion has to be backed with knowledge, and it has to be backed with real work. So you can't bring passion without real work behind it. The second very interesting thing you said is to be able to understand the bigger picture. So you said because you had heard Mr. Premji talk of various things. So it's not just about your job; it's about understanding how the CEO's mind is working from a very early. I think those 2 points come across very, very strongly to me, right? So please carry on about SIFI. What you're going to talk about SIFI.
So what Salil, you summarized very well. That if just you do these 2 things, you will reach any height you want to. Because every organization struggles. I must tell you, my first day at SIFI, and Ramraj said, Shrikant, we get so many customer calls that I don't know what the hell to do with it. Okay. And then you have asked me something on which you will come later on politics. I'll tell you what happened. We used to launch new services every 7 days, 10 days, and we used to get thousands of calls. 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 calls. And I said, look, the next service we launch, we want less than 300 calls. Okay, because that's what is a good service, firstly, and that was the need of the organization. And they were crazy. I went to the customer care, and I still remember some names, and I can take those. There's a girl called Gomti. And I said, Gomti, can you give me a report like this? My first day at SIFI. And at night, 10 o'clock, I'm go to customer care. This young lady in Chennai is still sitting. And I said, Gomti, why the hell are you sitting? Why didn't you go home? And she said, the report is not ready. And now all of you know what was happening in our CRM software. And this is a very interesting story. You have to give me 2 minutes latitude on this, Salil. When, like Pizza Hut, we call the number and the name pops up. That is Salil has called and this is his past and all that. We had the software, but it would pop up 3 minutes later. So our CRM executives were groping in the dark. And they have to write it down, everything on a piece of paper, and then input in the system in the night. So the system was in effect not effective at all. And this was the funny part. Only that piece was controlled by finance. The rest of the piece was controlled by the technology department. So I went to finance and I said, we need new servers. We need a capex of 5 crores, some figure like that. So I said, okay. So I went to Ramraj and I said, you please sign this capex of 5 crores. He said, are you mad? I said, I will not spend it, but please sign it. I went with that signature to this guy and I said, look, if there is a way, this is approval for 5 crores, but if there's a way without doing for 5 crores, you have to resign. And I talked to the CTO, he said, I can do it, but you get it out of finance. Then he struggled for 5-7 days, couldn't do it. I asked the CTO to do it. And I still remember there was a young boy from Andhra who was the engineer. In 3 days, it started to open in 0.2 seconds. And that changed, and our next launches, we did, there are many other parts to the story that I made everybody sign. And when it went to the CTO, he said, do I have to sign? I said, of course, because you have to make it 300. Then he said, okay, give me the CD. And he didn't allow it to launch another 15 days. There were so many bugs. And then we got to 500 and the story from there continued. So the story is essentially, what is the big picture? How do we do it? There's one more part to it. We had 30 or 40 IIMAGES that day. And this fellow says, I want 1,000 IIMAGES. We are struggling with 30, 40, and his vision was 1,000. So we had a big team. The investment from 10 lakhs I brought to 7 lakhs. Our agreement was 20 pages. If you give that agreement to any franchisee, he calls 2 lawyers. Correct. So I made it a 2.5-page agreement. I did a deal with HCL in those days, 25,000 PCs. I did a deal with Microsoft because the licenses used to be expensive, and I had the deal where concurrent licenses we used to use. That I'll buy 5,000 concurrent licenses, put on 10,000 PCs. Correct. And we did many such things to get those numbers, etc., etc. So that's, in a sense, what kind of sets you apart. You have to find the benchmark, find the pain area. Very easily, you don't have to put any effort because the top man is crying for years. I mean, this 10,000 you were told to 3 other people before me. Right?
So Shrikant, couple of quick comments on this. Number one, you know, in my experience, and I've done consulting for many, many years, and you know, have had some very interesting customers. The first thing is that finding the pain point is actually the most difficult, right? And sometimes, you know, actually stepping out of your comfort zone is more important. So the fact that you actually went up to that lady Gomti and asked her and understood what she was doing was probably the kind of stuff that a lot of people do not do. So to me, that is for me a message for people. You know, it's not just about just asking, but it's about seeing. So, you know, I used to use the word in consulting called walk the process. You know, you actually walk around and see, or management by walking around, which nobody, not a term anyway. So the second thing is that, you know, which again, I'll try and summarize for people, is this whole thing about cross-functional. So, you know, sometimes just a small issue, which is linked to a different functional area, which is out of the control of one function, is what causes maximum problem. And this whole silo thing, if the CEO can get out of that silo mindset and bring the organization together, I think that. And the third thing is to actually leverage different people in the organization. So this young boy who actually managed to fix the problem, you know, you need to find those kind of people in the organization.
Sure, sure. And also ownership. I think, Salil, if you stop somewhere, no, I tried this, but I tried this. I think
Correct. Correct.
there has to be some persistence to get across this wall.
Correct.
And believe me, the top man helps
Correct.
every time. I've
Correct.
seen it helps.
Okay. So the next
Yeah.
question, are you done? Can we move to the next question?
Yeah. Move ahead. Move ahead.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask you, a very specific question, right? So this IIM education, did that help you in getting there, or was there a lot more to it beyond the IIM education?
So let me tell you, the IIM education gets you the first job. That's how you get the job. The skills like the analytical, what you said, get to the root cause, all those are required. But I must tell you, part of a production career or a sales career, first, I keep telling all the youngsters, find a line job. Staff jobs are cushy, nice, but you never get the credit. You will never become a CEO by doing a staff job. I did my marketing job for 6 months. After that, I have never done any staff job till today. I retire very shortly, 2-3 years from now. I have not done a single staff job because the rubber hits the road in a line job. Okay. Now, coming back to your specific questions, while the aptitude and the way of thinking does help, but there are 2-3 things which you're totally unprepared for. And I must tell you one which happened very early in my career is you have to kill your ego if you really want to do that.
Wow.
Now here I was from IIM, IIT. First day you're told you're cream of the nation. You are from IIM Ahmedabad. I joined Wipro and my first market visit was Amalner. Okay. There was an area manager. He took us along and I went to us 2-3 stores ahead. I'm a Maharashtrian. I could speak to him in Marathi. And that fellow, the retailer asked me, "Kaun se company ka salesman hai?" And it hit. And the first thing I said is, "I'm not a salesman." Here I was trying to change company, change this, and this guy says I'm a salesman. And that guy, the area manager, he understood what was happening as a Bengali called Gautam Ganguly. And he said, "Shrikant, even Premji is a salesman in his shop.
Correct.
He is the God." Okay. Now this happened to me in 7-10 days of my career. And then I realized that, boss, all that degrees, you would just keep it in your drawer. It's done. Here you are a salesman or he is the customer. So that is one thing. Second thing, Salil, you would have realized you've done lots of courses like sales and distribution management. It doesn't prepare you to manage stockers. It doesn't prepare you to manage a large sales force. It doesn't prepare you to manage what the retailer will say at all. Getting work done from diverse people with diverse objectives, aligning them, people with different abilities, getting the best out of them is never taught in institute. You may do a project, but those 5 are bright and brilliant fellows around you.
Exactly. And
Right?
they may not have had the
And that is,
opportunity, but they are amazing. Each one of them knows
oh
what they are
yes,
doing.
oh yes, of course. If you ask me where I learned, in those days I was area manager, my supervisor, the 2 of the best, I learned my entire thing from them.
Right.
And that's a different school out there where you need to be open to learn from all quarters. And people have amazing experiences, amazing. I'm sure people on shop floor will tell hundreds of stories when they are stuck. When the engineers can't do, the operator will tell you how to do it. On a construction business, the foreman knows a lot more than any civil engineer will know. But we have to be open to learn from those. So those are areas. It gives you the first job. The IIM education gives you the first job, I guess.
So
That's
my
it.
takeaway from this conversation here is that, keep learning, right? And there are many people out there who are going to teach you, right from that shopkeeper to your supervisors to the people on the floor. And if you don't talk to them and to talk to them with an open mind, you're going to miss out. If you think, and the second, I think what you started by saying that, drop your ego. So I think those two are very important takeaways for me. Shrikant, you did mention that you got lucky, but overall in this journey, how important do you treat luck? And or it's all hard work. I have this debate with many people, and I would love to hear your views.
Yeah. I'll tell you my view on that. I think, as I said, firstly, you need to be prepared. If you're not prepared, no amount of luck will help you. Okay. And that requires a very different, what should I say, mindset, that you do not know what will be required, but you have to do your best. It's like they say, jump at the opportunity. But if you're not jumping, you miss that jump. So you have to keep jumping. When you're jumping, then you are lucky, all this will happen. And I have two very beautiful stories on this, Salil. That's where my
Sure,
conviction comes
sure,
from. I'll
sure.
tell both
Please,
to you.
please.
You know, when we were in IIT final year, and there are many, I think I see Vineet also there. When the IIM calls used to come, there used to be hundreds of calls. Okay. And 100 calls came from IIM Bangalore, 100 came from IIM Calcutta. I didn't get a single call. I didn't get a call from IIM Calcutta or IIM Bangalore. And I started, chala gaya, ye to saal gaya, we have to work again next year. And then lo and behold, I get a call from IIM Ahmedabad. Okay. Now, it brought a different focus because I had no other choice. Others had three choices and three interviews and GDs, and I had only one. So you will not believe, I went and opened the form which I had filled 8 months back. There I had written, I love economics. I forgot, I don't know why I wrote that, but it was written there. Economics I had done in second year. Okay. So I went to the library, I studied all of economics. Okay. And then I went prepared for what all I had written in my form, that this is what all I like. Now you will know the luck part. G.S. Gupta was at the interview panel, who is our economics prof.
Right.
And he picked up and said, oh, so you like economics? I said, yes. And he asked hundreds of things. What is the cost of doing MBA? So the opportunity cost concept, substitution concept, X concept. And then he said, what is the substitution and elasticity concept both rolled together? And I said, it's Slutsky's theorem. He said, can you explain? And this is where I said, there's a board, can I use it? And I do the diagram and he said, nothing, no more explanation required. But why did it help? Why the luck that G.S. Gupta was there? He would have been there. But if I didn't study economics,
Yeah,
that luck would have been useless.
Absolutely
Useless.
But Shrikant, so this is a very interesting story, but my story of exactly the same scenario is completely different, right? So I was from Bhopal, right? And I also did not get a call from Bangalore or Calcutta. I also just randomly got a call from Ahmedabad, and I was supposed to come for the interview to Delhi from Bhopal. And I still remember that I practically came unprepared because I was not even expecting to get in, quite honestly. Okay, MSCT say from my college, I was the first guy to ever get into that, straight out of college. And I came with zero expectations and with virtually no preparation. And I met a very nice, so Mirza Sayadin was there. And he kept talking to me about Bhopal. And he kept talking to me about Bhopal and how you will come from a small city, etc., etc., etc. And I don't know what I did, but I got selected. So yeah, preparation is very important, no doubt. Right? But my experiences are that, at the right place, the right things will happen. Anyway, what's your second story?
No, second is a little personal. I must tell you this. My younger son was a little cocky, and once he got really bad marks, and he would say, "No, don't teach me." Then he came and said, "Maths, Dad, can you teach me?" So I did this agreement that I tell you do and no questions asked. And I said, "What are they going to teach you tomorrow? Read and go." But he said, "But the teacher will teach us nothing." He started reading and going. Then I said, "What homework?" They used to give 3 out of 10. I said, "Solve all 10. Find more and do it." And he kept doing this for 20 days. And then suddenly there was a class test and he got full marks. And he said, "Dad, I was lucky." I said, "Bloody hell, you are not lucky. If you work like this, you will get lucky." Okay.
Correct.
So, it's preparation. I have not yet seen somebody who prepared that hard and didn't make it.
Okay.
But if you want, and then I will tell you on your other things on politics also when the question comes. The competence, nothing can be done without competence.
Correct.
That
I completely
agree. You have to be fully ready.
That I completely agree. Okay, so let me
when you prepare so much, you'll be lucky.
Sure. No, which is perfectly fine. Okay, so Shrikant, let me move to being at the top, right? So, they say that it's very lonely at the top. So first of all, my simple question to you is, do you agree with that?
So there are 2 points to this. The answer is yes and no, but more no if you are in a professional setup.
Hmm.
I'll tell you the first time when I felt, when we invested heavily into lighting in Wipro, and there were 6-8 months, we don't know what the hell was happening. And that Prem used to be very worried guy. And once he said, but Shrikant, and I proposed something, and I said, what if it doesn't happen? So I said, Mr. Benji, I'll resign. That's the only thing I have. I can't give you money. I can't give you 30 crores which you have invested,
Right.
but I will resign. And he said, okay, that's fine with me. And that night I went home and said, okay, I said, at least I have an option of resigning. That guy doesn't have that option at all.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So to that extent, the loneliness of a owner is 1,000 times more than the loneliness of a CEO.
Correct.
Okay? Because he doesn't have a choice. You can just walk out, get another job and be done with it. He's stuck with the investments. But the other part, I must tell you, and there are some people here, Vinit does a lot of work with us. It depends on what your nature is. If you see my Apex team, we discuss everything. There are many senior people. They're senior to me by age. Their counsel is very wise at times. And I know whom to go for that counsel. There are people who know L&T very well. I have an outstanding relation with Mr. Nayak. I have with SNS. We can go and discuss anything. So it is not lonely anymore.
Okay.
But if you shut yourself from these things, then it can be terribly lonely.
Got it.
It's a lot of personal nature. All the problems we face as a business, we discuss together as team. And you can check from many others, even our consultants, they will know all the problems. But this is my problem, how to solve.
Got it.
So then it's a shared vision, and it's no longer lonely.
So let me jump a few questions and come to something more interesting, right? So we all talk about corporate politics, and managing corporate politics, to my mind, is extremely important for a CEO. And when I talk of corporate politics, I also talk about sycophants and rebels, right? So there are people who will, of both types who are there. How do you manage this, and what is your experience in managing this?
So I'll tell you both. I'll tell first the rebel and sycophants, and then we'll talk about
Okay, whichever way.
Politics. Yeah, I must tell you, uh, if you are steadfast on what you want to do, this is a little easier to manage. And I'll give an example. SoftBank was to invest in SIFI, big grant. We needed that money. I remember the day, and they were on our board, and we were in that meeting, and Rama said, look, I need this report by 3 o'clock. I said, fine. And this thing went on till 1:30. Our normal lunch time was 1 in Tidal Park. I come out and a group of youngsters is standing there. And I still remember the name, the girl's name is Sandhya. And she said, Shrikant, it's my birthday and you have to come for the lunch. And I said, perfectly fine, we'll go down lunch. He said, no, we are not going down. We had a food court, nice food court in Tidal Park. I said, this is where she'll go. And she said, no, you have to come to one restaurant on ECR Road. So I know that 3 o'clock is gone. I said, Sandhya, I can't do it. I have this. She said, so bad, Shrikant, 20 of us are waiting for 20 minutes for you. Now that girl had a point. So I first called Rama. I said, that report instead of 3, I'll give it 5 o'clock. And I went on that lunch with these youngsters. And we came back by 3 o'clock, 3:30. And I gave the report by 5. But that girl taught me a lesson. They were waiting for 20 minutes, which is true. Now, she herself is a big consultant like you, and she does big things on HR today. But this is how the rebels, at times you have to exceed, which is a genuine request, and do that.
Correct.
The other part is a little more difficult. And when you reach the top, you will always find there are 1 or 2 guys who are latched onto you by the previous management or X or Y or Z, and they'll always be there. And there's one such guy in CFI, and whenever I discuss, he'll say, you know what Salil has done? I said, look, I'm not interested. Don't tell me what Salil has done. Tell me what you have done. And 3 months he got frustrated. He said, how to talk to you? You're not interested in any other thing. I said, no, I'm not interested. Just perform. So it took 3 months to wear him down. But every other boss, he said, used to be happy getting this information.
Correct.
I said, what your colleague is doing is between me and him. It's not, I don't need your input on that. You tell me on business, you tell me what we can do better, you tell me what the company can do better. I'm all ears, but I'm not going to listen on what somebody else is doing or not doing. That is my job. So once that was done, it cuts it down dramatically. And
I
then
think
people
that's
know that this is not a key to this man or woman.
I think that's a great tip, Shrikant. Uh, so just one thing for all the people who have joined us, if you have any questions, please just put it in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We have one question from Dev G. Shrikant, we'll come back to that. But before that, I'll let you continue about politics, how to handle politics.
The other part of politics, I must say, you must figure out, are you cut out for that? I was very lucky to be in Wipro. All the personal family values which you bring got further accentuated or backed and said, hey, you can do a corporate life with all of this. And Prem himself would not allow any politics. Now, it doesn't mean it wasn't there, but it was never, what should I say, encouraged or done. So I worked for a brief stint, 1.5 years in Heinz. And it was a very political company all across. And I realized I wouldn't be happy doing anything there. And I quit in 18 months and walked out of that place. All other places, if you just focus on the results for your business, how to get that, like I told you in that we transferred from finance to IT, and the IT head was a great guy. We did fantastic work for the next 3 to 5 years. Perfectly fine. I mean, but it was for a cause which the top man wanted. And it went to a right place where the competence existed. So these things happen. In L&T, it took me first 2-3 years, but Ms. Mac has then said as SNS continues, anything with real estate anywhere in the company, whether I'm part of it or not, is done through our group, L&T Realty.
Great. So, Shrikant, there's a question here from, from Dev G. He's saying, have you ever felt stuck in a role or at a particular level for years, and how did you get out of it? What is your advice?
Dev, I think it's a good question, but since I told you the trick to beat that is as follows. The trick to beat that is, if you are positive, nobody likes negative people. If the boss wants to do something and you find 20 ways how it cannot be done, nobody likes you. And you may be right on all the 20 points. But if you can find that one way it can be done, everybody likes you. Okay, and that's what you are there for. So in the early part, when I was actually used as a troubleshooter, moving from one place to another, to another, to another. So the maximum I stayed in a place was 2.5 years. So it never happened that it was kind of a stagnant in any way. Then it happens, by the time you become CEO, then there's just labels, there may be some grades which you go up, but you remain a CEO, that's it. I was lucky it didn't happen at all. But I must tell you, it is possible to happen. At that point of time, we should not think that growing vertical is the only journey. A helix is also a journey. The learnings of that point of time, many times you take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And those are perfectly valid reasons. We should stop comparing with our batchmates, our compatriots, our colleagues. Ours is a very unique journey. Everybody's journey is not the same. And the journey is very, very personal, very, very different. So should not bother if you feel you're stuck. If you don't learn, if you don't add new competencies, then you are stuck. But it could be a preparation time for something else, something very big. You don't know what it is.
So Shrikant, just taking
a number of years is not a right criteria.
Right, just taking a minute to read out some of the messages. So Vineet loves your session. Suresh Madan, our batchmate, is here. He's enjoying the session. Rajan Telang, saying fantastic session. There's a question from Manish. What will you vouch for as CEO? Positive journey or result if separated?
And what? Can you just repeat that?
Okay, even I'm not sure of this question. What will you vouch for as CEO? Positive journey or result if separated? Oh, so I think what
Result
he's
which?
saying is, yeah, he's asking whether you will vouch for positive journey or result. So are you focused more on the
Actually,
journey or the results?
I must tell you this. When I'm talking like this, it is not that there have not been failures. There may have been many failures. It's like a great batsman; you doesn't score 100 every time.
Correct.
It is not. I mean, so long as you succeed in 7 out of 10, it's perfectly valid. You don't have to succeed 10 out of 10. But the 10 have to be hairy goals. But the 6, 7 you succeed, far, far overtake many things which you are not able to do. So there are many areas, many services we failed, many that soap which I talked to you about and which position we in mind of range, we did horribly. Our PAT was 7 crores. We spent 4 crores on advertising and we had to kind of stop that soap. And then we launched Santoor, and which today is the largest selling soap, beating Lux and Rexona. But that experiment failed.
Okay,
So
next.
there are many failures. Yeah.
Next question from Mohammed Kashif. Sorry, Shrikant, I'm just cutting you short in the interest of keeping time and answering all the different questions. So Mohammed Kashif would like to know, how do you suggest balancing relationship management with performance? So he's saying that my job requires coordinating with multiple teams, and in that context, he asked.
So I must tell you this. The two are not different, and most people will see you if you are really helping them. Firstly, there must be a positive bank account with that person, with every person. You have to help them when they need it, and you have to go out of your way to do that. If that is done and you are true and honest to your core, all relationships can be managed without sacrificing on the goal, and they will realize that you are doing it for the goal.
Okay. We have a question from Vinay Chandan. It is said that managers love to control and leaders give up control and empower. What can you go right, wrong?
What can you go right, wrong?
Which of them is what you think?
Well, I think there will be a limitation to your growth if you control everything. That's one thing for sure. You just can't do it. Now, how do you empower? There are many people who come in my company even now and said, boss, I want to do the whole thing. There is a graded way you do that till the competence is proved, number one. Number two, there are crises. In a crisis, people can display many things which otherwise would take years to display. And there are 2 or 3 bright people who display that, and you pick on them, and then you really lean on them and empower more and more and more and more. So it is a fine balance. What is for sure is if you control everything, you will be limited.
Got it. So two quick questions from my list, Shrikant. The first one was in this, being as a CEO, what has been your, best moment? What has been the most pleasurable moment for you as a CEO?
So I must tell you my most pleasurable moment, and it's across the last 37 years. When I worked in the first 13 years in Wipro, there were not cameras, there were not too many photos. I just had one photo with Mr. Premji, and Mr. Premji was visiting us in L&T 2017. I left in 96. So it's 21 years after I left. And I told Mr. Nayak that, look, I want to have a picture with both of you, my first mentor and my last mentor. And he said, Kal aa jao yaar, Premji is coming. And I went there, and Mr. Nayak said that, look, he's your guy. And he said, of course, I know Shrikant. And he recounted my entire career 21 years after I had left.
Wow.
21 years after I had left that company. And that's the only, goodwill I carry with all the companies I have worked with, that they would still, in some sense, want me or remember me. And Mr. Premji told me the only mistake he did was leaving Wipro. So that's my best 20 minutes, and there are some beautiful snaps of that, which is not important for this group, but I'll share separately with you.
Yeah, you should put it on your LinkedIn.
Fantastic.
I think you should
I
put
will
it
do
on your
that.
LinkedIn.
I will do that.
And I can
Yeah.
completely empathize with this feeling. So I bumped into a client of mine after 20 years, and you know, just all that he had to say about what the benefits that accrued to him in that few years that I associated was so fulfilling. So I
Mm-hmm.
can completely empathize.
It is. It is.
So
Yeah.
let me. The second one is So we talked of a good experience. What has been the ugliest experience? What is just again that would be
Well,
interesting
the
to share.
ugliest experience was really ugly. It was all over the press. When I was with Emaar, it was a government-to-government contract, done well before I was there, and land and is all political. And then there was a witch hunt, and when YSR died, it was after Jagan, and the cases are still going on. And my CFO was inside for 6 months, and I was with a hair's breadth. Otherwise, a scheming CEO XYZ, and I would have been behind bars for 6-8 months at that point of time. But by God's grace, all worked well. But if you ask me, the ugliest moment, that is the ugliest moment of my entire life.
Got it. Got it. And we'll hear more stories at some other point of time. Rajan is asking a question: what is tougher, reaching the top or being there?
Well, Rajan, it depends on the company you are in. If you are in a very political company, 100 people vying for it, and etc., it's very, very difficult. Most people who dream of international jobs and multinational companies, I have to warn you that you have to be very prepared to play the politics. I wasn't, so I very rarely worked in a multinational company. I must tell you once, a very big multinational company was chasing me, and a colleague who had worked with me was there. And he said, Shrikant, this is not the place for you. You do honest work, this place you cannot survive. So I just steadfastly remained away. If you work companies like Wipro or L&T, so long as you contribute, the company values that. You don't have to face any of these silly distractions, as I would say. Of course, you have to take care of your business, continue to do well, create teams, create competencies, see that the business is relevant for the future. But that's what you want to do as a CEO, and that's what you enjoy doing.
A question from Hari: do you have any personal role models? I
So
think I know
Hari,
the answer. I think I know the answer.
no,
You just
yes, I have. I must tell you, and I keep telling this to many people. I have, Salil, like you came from Bhopal, I came from Bhilai. And in Bhilai, a batch senior to us, one guy went into IIT. Then we were 7 and 20, 30. There's one teacher who single-handedly put 500 kids to IIT.
wow.
And I passed out school in 76. It's 45 years. And I'm still in touch with the teacher. I meet her for every 5th of September. I make it a point to talk to her or to personally meet her. She's one absolutely selfless. We didn't, I must have got to her house 100 times asking for problems. And we didn't even think of paying any tuition fees. Believe me, there's no question.
Right.
That's one. Mr. Premji is obviously second. Mr. Nayak is third. These are people who have done incredible. Mr. Premji never worked for money, never. I mean, he's a very rich man today, but he always said, she can do good job. We must do good service to our customers. And that's the life which I have learned.
So thank you, Shrikant. Before we run away, and I know it's getting on to 6:15. I don't like to overshoot time. But one last question, very briefly. Any quick update on your industry? I'm sure nobody has asked that question, but I thought it would be a good idea to, given COVID, what is the update on the
Yeah.
realty industry?
So I must tell you, forget the COVID. I've been last 3-4 years have been very tumultuous and very good for honest players. Otherwise, it was not a place where honest players could survive. It was a wild west. The customer was taken for ride. It has been outstanding for customer. The customer protection has gone up 1,000 folds. Only branded players with money, the gone are the place where people can divert money, do this, do that, which is the order of the day. And it is now a play of very branded players. And next, the all leadership game is open. Other than one or two, all the big names are out of the market. Next 3 to 5 years will decide the new leaders and the new pack, the top 3, 5 who will be there. That's one part of the industry. But for most of the people who, as a consumer, if you have the money, this is the best time to buy, but buy ready apartments or buy under construction from credible players. The rates now are the lowest. If you buy today, the rates may not go for 1.5, 2 years, but if you want to stay for your own use or a good investment, you will not get it so cheap, maybe in the next 10 years.
Wow. Okay. Okay. At that note, Shrikant, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I think a lot of people would have picked up. I personally learned a few interesting things, and which I don't know whether I'll have
Salil,
too much
thank
time.
you. Thank you for hosting me. It was a pleasure, and last 2, 3 days gave me a lot of time to reflect and look
Wonderful.
back, which otherwise I may not have done.
Wonderful. So with that, thank you all. We have over 60 participants. Thank you all for taking out the time to join and listen. If you have liked this session, please do leave us feedback on our Facebook page or LinkedIn. We'll also post this recording on YouTube, so you can put up a session there as well. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next week with another session in the e-roundtable series. The next session is on new skills for sustainability. So we're talking, Shrikant, about one of the sessions we do every week is on sustainability. And the next session
Okay.
is being hosted by another junior from IIM Ahmedabad, and she'll talk about, talk to a panel about new skills. So thank you, everyone. Wonderful having you all here, and good evening and goodbye.
Thanks, Salil. Thank you.